Oops. There's a real room with real people. Not that you're not real. Not that the last 2 years hasn't been real, but it is rather amazing. So what I wanted to do today, I have to retrain myself because I'm so used to looking at a computer. So I hope everybody forgives me and is patient with each other and yourselves and me. We talked on Monday about peace in a world where it's easy to forget, or somehow we allowed ourselves to forget that there's been war in many areas, suffering for some time. But the war in Ukraine has gotten the world's attention. And as bodhisattvas, the question always is, what can we do? What should we do? What's possible? And as I said on Monday, I'm so glad that we have Thich Nhat Hanh as a guide, because Thich Nhat Hanh lived through war and his teachings came out of war. So I keep going to all these little books on my bookshelf that have just been there, labeled Thich Nhat Hanh books. And this one seemed particularly relevant. It's called the Mindfulness Survival Kit. It doesn't say mindfulness, make your life easy kit. It's called the Mindfulness Survival Kit, which if we know that as bodhisattvas we are practicing with and for the whole world, we are now acutely aware that there are people that we think are over there that are trying to survive. Some of you here, and some of you on the screen, and some of people right outside the door, or maybe struggling to survive. We don't know. So it seemed appropriate to talk about a survival kit, 5 essential practices. There's only 5. We're going to get this. Okay, you ready? Thich Nhat Hanh begins with, I was thinking this is a lot like, when you get on an airplane and they tell you that you should put your own mask on first. It's the same feeling, is practice, put your mask on, take care of yourself, take care of each other, but always be aware of, no matter how separate or alone you feel, there's no separation. There is separation and there's no separation. So practice for yourself to take care of your own state of mind and practice to take care of the world. So Thich Nhat Hanh says here, why we need a mindfulness survival kit, you might ask. Mindfulness is the awareness of what is going on in us and around us in the present moment. It requires stopping, looking deeply, and recognizing both the uniqueness of the moment and its connection to everything that has gone before and will go on in the future. I'll say that again. Stop. Look deeply. Recognize the uniqueness, the preciousness of just this moment and its connection, its profound interconnection to everything that happened before and everything that will happen. This is not a powerless place to sit. Mindfulness can help us survive and thrive both as individuals and as human beings on this earth together. Mindfulness is a continual practice. There's no end game here, guys. It's a continual practice, a path that helps us to transform our suffering and that brings happiness to ourselves and to others. I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it always seems so profound to me, is the Four Noble Truths. Well, for those of you who were here for the Avatamsaka Sutra mini little talk, the Buddha, when he first woke up, as I understand it, it was so big and so cosmic and so amazing, and maybe he tried to explain it to people, and people went, "Whoa, Buddha, you're over the top." And so he became very practical, and he said, "What can I tell people that will actually help people live here on this earth in peace and harmony, to actualize through our very human lives that which is incomprehensible, wondrous, and mysterious beyond measure?" And he came up with the Four Noble Truths. They're very simple. So let me just maybe review a little bit here. We'll see. I found so many marvelous things in here. We'll see how much we actually get to share. In his first teaching, the Buddha spoke of the Four Noble Truths. These are, this is Thich Nhat Hanh's language, ill-being, the path leading to ill-being, well-being, and the path to well-being. The fourth noble truth, the path leading to well-being, is called the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path is talked more about in the Vipassana and Theravadan traditions, not so much in Zen, not because it's not incorporated into Zen, but it's more just continuous practice. Just live it. Wake up, live it. But to just go over the 8 right practices, which are always good to review and to go to, right view. It's pretty fundamental. What's the view that you're looking through? Are you looking through your self-centered view? Well, of course you are. No. But acknowledge it, and then take a deeper breath and come back so that the view becomes round and whole and timeless. And breathe ourselves in and out of these. And out of right view flows right thinking. If you're thinking out of a place that's self-centered, we all know that place, right? And then there's all my ancient twisted karma and greed, hate, and delusion, and it's not like don't take care of this self, but it has to be breathing in and out. Take care of this me. This me is the whole world. This whole world is me. Oh, how can I widen and deepen my perception and my heart? Then what naturally comes is right speech. You don't want to say things that are going to hurt other people, including saying things to yourself internally. Right action of the body. It's nice Thich Nhat Hanh says this. He says right action of the body. What are you doing with your body? Pay attention. Right livelihood. How are you taking care of yourself and your family and people that you love and the earth? Right livelihood. Right diligence or right effort. Are you trying too hard? Are you just like, well, whatever? Or, man, this is so depressing, I'm out of here? Pay attention. Right mindfulness and right concentration is basically lived zazen, embodied zazen. If we look deeply enough, these 4 truths contain everything we need to know about the nature of being human and the nature of the world around us. If we see the true nature of the 4 noble truths, you shall see the true nature of the cosmos. They're simple and they contain everything. One thing you can always be sure of is that, fill in the line, There is suffering in us and in the world. Now we're just more acutely aware of it. The Buddha built his teaching and practice based on that truth. We know that if suffering is there, something else must also be there. I'm leaving gaps here so your little brains can fill in your own little answers. If suffering's here, what else must there be here? Happiness. Just understanding and accepting this truth can bring us some relief. Our ill-being, our suffering is not exactly our fault. It's not your fault. It's your responsibility. It's the result of many causes and conditions, both collective and individual, such as wrong perceptions, confusion, strong emotions, which lead to unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. But that doesn't mean that happiness can't happen. You don't have to destroy suffering in order to have happiness. When we accept the Four Noble Truths, we can practice two things. First, we can acknowledge suffering, suffering our own and in the world, and we can acknowledge that we can wake up in it and that there actually can be happiness. We can experience and live happiness and embody it in the world. Okay. Want to know what the 5 essential practices are for waking up in the midst of suffering and to cultivate happiness? This is good. Everybody's nodding. These are, and I'm going to play with Thich Nhat Hanh's language a little bit. These are Thich Nhat Hanh's precepts. We have 16 Bodhisattva precepts. Thich Nhat Hanh has 5 precepts. But I'm not going to say them so much as precepts because that's not the way that he's saying them. Is the 5 mindfulness training practices are reverence for life, true happiness. What is true happiness? True love, deep listening and loving speech, and nourishment and healing, which I would translate that into being a true human being. This is the path of being a true human being. And mindfulness is how we embody it in our daily lives and our thoughts and our actions. When we wash the dishes, when we go to the bathroom, when we set up for Sangha, when we zoom in for Sangha. Okay. The Buddha was very pragmatic. He said, "You do not need to ask questions about what happens after death, how the universe began, or when it will end, and so on." You know, those kind of questions that some religions try to answer, or maybe we want to know, like, what's the meaning of all of this, and where are we going to go after we die, and where were we before we were born? And he says, Buddha and Thich Nhat Hanh, bring your mind back to the real situation in which you're living. Simply over and over again, bring your mind back to the real situation in which you're living. You have to recognize the suffering that is, discover its cause, and then find a way out of it. We have to be down to earth. The right view the Buddha talks about is not some abstract knowledge about the universe, but it's insight into the Four Noble Truths. When we first hear the Four Noble Truths, we think, well, that's easy enough. In fact, we haven't yet really understood the Four Noble Truths. He says, at some point, somebody asked him, Thai, have you understood the Four Noble Truths completely? Kristen, have you understood the Four Noble Truths? Come on. Oh, Kristen's wise, she knows. Well, Ty said the same thing. He said, no, I'm still in the process of understanding them. This is forever looking deeply. The deep understanding of the Four Noble Truths demands that we devote a great deal of time and practice to them. This is the heart of it. Most of us just have an idea of what the Four Noble Truths are. We haven't understood them. We haven't understood the essence of the Four Noble Truths. We haven't seen that they inter-are. If we haven't understood the truth of suffering, then we haven't understood the truth of happiness. And if we haven't understood happiness, then we haven't understood suffering. You can't separate them out. We so much, because we believe in duality, want to separate them out. Oh, I'll just get over suffering and then I'll be happy. There's something really wrong here. They're completely inter-are. When we truly understand the interbeing nature of the Four Noble Truths, we shall understand the interbeing nature of everything. Interbeing means this is that and that is this. This is that and that is this. This lies in that and that lies in this. Without this, you cannot have that. So when we think what's happening in Ukraine, you look cold. You're freezing. Oh dear. Bring blankets. If you think the Ukraine is just over there, you don't understand that this and that is a swinging door. So let's really cultivate peace right here in this ground, in this moment. So here's a couple of practices. He gives very practical reverence for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing and compassion and learning ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. Seeing that harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn come from dualistic and discriminative thinking. We vow to cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and in the world. Be careful how you're processing what's happening in this war zone. I mean, please feel the suffering. Please want the suffering to end. But watch where your mind goes and practice with anger and with fear. For everybody over there and for people here. Here's a little practice that he gives. We all have seeds of violence, hatred, and discrimination in the depths of our consciousness, and when these seeds are watered, we suffer and can make others suffer. If someone says or does something that makes us feel hurt or afraid, we need to take very good care of ourselves, and walking in mindfulness is one of the best ways to take care of the body and mind. Just walk. Feel your feet on the earth. Now the seed of violence is manifesting in me. Feel your feet on the ground. Breathe in and breathe out. Release. Don't let it overwhelm you. Our mindful steps and mind states are a wonderful way to help us transform our state of mind from a violent one into a non-violent one. Want to know about true happiness? True happiness. Committing to cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness as an ongoing practice. Practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future. Here's a little practice. Find a quiet spot. Follow your breath. Come back to yourself. See all the wonderful things that your body and mind and environment have to offer. Let go of the idea that only the future can bring you happiness. You can be happy with what you have right now. True happiness. True love. Here's a practice for true love. Breathing in and out. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I and you and all beings be safe and free from injury. May I and you and all beings be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May I and you and all beings learn to look at ourselves with the eyes of understanding and love. May we recognize and be in touch with the seeds of happiness in ourselves, and may we identify and embrace the sources of suffering in ourselves. May we nourish the seeds of joy in ourselves every day. May we live fresh, solid, and free. May we be free from attachment and aversion, but not be indifferent. Deep listening and loving speech, nourishment and healing. I want to go to Thich Nhat Hanh's language about applying these ethics. All of these things should be applied and not theoretical. Really simple, practical. Learn how to be relaxed and release the tension in yourselves. Learn how to be relaxed and release the tension in your body and heart and mind. Learn how to breathe and calm ourselves when we have strong emotions. You're watching the TV, the news? Breathe for yourself and for everybody on the screen. Learn how to keep communication open with relatives and friends, and how to restore communication when it's broken down. And learn ways to look deeply in order to realize interbeing and know self, and to overcome fear. If there wasn't war, we wouldn't be having such a yearning for peace. If there wasn't death, we wouldn't have such a yearning to want to find ways for people to be safe and alive. So I thought I'd just read you, and then we'll break up into groups. Here's a summary of Buddhist ethics. It's kind of dense, but I kind of like it. Both subject and object of perception manifest from consciousness according to the principle of interbeing. Humans are present in all things, and all things are present in humans. We think in subject-object. There is subject-object, but if you think it's just subject-object, and you don't get we're in everything and everything's in us, you're going to miss the wonder. And there's wonder in duality, too. On the phenomenal level, there seems to be birth, death, being, and non-being. But ontologically, these notions cannot be applied to reality. The dynamic consciousness is called karmic energy. We get caught in storms of karmic energy. But everything is evolving from the principle of interdependence. Everything arising out of everything else, but there is free will and the possibility to transform. There is probability. The one affects the all, and the all affects the one, and interbeing also means impermanence, non-self, emptiness, karma, and countless world systems. Ultimate reality transcends notions of good and evil, right and wrong, happiness and suffering are. So there's your survival kit. So maybe here's a question we could take into small groups. And maybe there's lots of room to spread out here. We could do groups of 3. Maybe there'll be one group of 4.